Here I am. It's Cristol O'Loughlin from Angel Aid. I'm here with Anika Atkins. Anika and I met at the retreat at our first Angel Aid Rare Mothers Resiliency retreat back in November. So hi.
Oh, it's so good to see you. It is, Crystal. I, you were literally an angel that came into my life at the perfect moment. So I just, can't say enough about that. And so
I remember the phone call. I think I was in Brandy Melville with Chloe, my daughter,
you
shopping,
were shopping.
and the Angel Aid phone was, the Angel Aid bat phone was forwarded to my mobile, and I picked up. And do you remember those moments?
Oh, I was in tears, and we were, I was just needing something. But in our world of rare disease, it's everyone says self-care, 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 but the reality is what does that look like? And so I was getting burned out. I was so burned out that I was just not functioning. And it wasn't because Ella was in a bad place particularly. It was just where I think cumulative.
Yeah.
After so many years, it just gets to you at times that you just aren't expecting it. So no matter, I would been praying about it, and I had been looking at retreats, and nothing fit what I needed. Really, I looked at all kinds of things. And so I told you this, but my husband had gone on a week-long hunting trip. And so I was like, okay, this gives me the opportunity to pick what I want to do and give me some time, because, it's a huge challenge to walk away from your routines at home. It's a lot of logistics you have to do to step away. So anyway, it worked out perfect. And it was crazy because I saw you off of World Genes website.
Yeah.
And I had been aware of you.
Yeah, the Global Genes.
Global
Genes. Yeah.
And so then through that, that's how we connected. And it was like, it wasn't that long before the retreat was happening. So we were like, it just fell into my lap. So
I think it was in the next couple of weeks was when it was going to be happening. And it just seemed like the right timing for you. Like you said, it was.
Yeah. And I was so grateful you offered me to come for, this was the first one. And I know everybody had been set up with this, they had planned for it. And so for me, I kind of like drop in from, out of Washington State. But it was such a great fit and a great, like sisterhood, but it goes deep, really deep. And, so.
Deep, fast. That was our observation. Our experience was not a lot of conversation needed to happen between you and your cohorts, your other rare moms. It was just like instant connection. Like, I get you.
Yeah.
I don't even know the details of your child's rare disease, and it's not that those aren't important. It's just that we're here to connect with each other as mothers. And
and I think we live so much of our world like in that health story, that narrative. And it was so nice to step away and have moms, like you said, we don't have to talk about what we went through last year. We can just work on, let's get stronger, let's feel better about life. And that was powerful, and that's what I think I was seeking. And I'm certain the other moms were too. So yeah.
What do you remember? One of the exercises, it was actually before you arrived at the retreat, and Dr. Laura Riordan is such an amazing facilitator. She developed the Sustainable Mom sort of training, if you want to call it that guided the conversations. And the first thing she had you do was send a photo of you before you had children.
Yes.
Like so tell us who was the pre-mom Anika? Like what?
It's funny because, as you know, life happened quick for me. I met the love of my life later. So Shane and I got married I was, I think, 35, 36. And we got pregnant pretty quick, and everything fell into place really well. Before that, though, I was working teaching in ethics and worked long hours doing that and enjoyed my life, did dental hygiene too. So I was pretty self-sufficient, and Shane was too. My husband's an airline pilot. And so life worked very smoothly. Everything just click, 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 click. You live off of a calendar, and health issues, that doesn't exist. And then life changed quick when Ella was born, and within 2 months we realized something wasn't right and diagnosed and all of that. So, but yeah, Annie before all of this, or Anika, that I go by both. Those are
Okay.
but I think I was just living life. I don't think, things up until that point in my life had gone incredibly easy. I mean, I really, all my family was healthy. We were strong. Same with my husband. We really didn't have to face kind of ongoing trauma, like chronic illness in a family. We didn't know what that was. And so when life changed, I mean, it impacts every single cell of your body. I mean, we talk about, and you brought this up in one of our meetings, that chronic traumatic stress syndrome that you have, you carry it because you're going through so many medical emergencies and unknowns. I mean, that you forget who you are quickly. You just are surviving. And I can get looking at people that have gone through big traumas of, like even going to war or something. I kind of understand what it's like to just get through the moment, get through the scenario. But after several years, that impact just wears your soul down. So one thing I will say is, this organization is really, I think, trying to bring back tools for women to realize it's, your narrative doesn't have to be just traumatic story of health. It's easy to fall into that place, and I do it a lot. I do it a lot, but it doesn't have to be your whole story. And that was such a blessing. So I don't even remember what picture I sent in. I don't remember, but it was a real eye-opener to see, oh my goodness, where have I been, the last 6 years of my life? And I've been in a medical situation that just consumes all your time. With the love of my life too is Ella. So it goes both ways. So I'm not saying life is miserable, but that changes you.
Yeah. So take us there. What is Ella's condition? What is life like for you? A typical week in the life of you and Ella and Shane together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with Ella, she has infantile Pompe disease. And really, it's a muscular dystrophy. It's glycogen stores in her muscles and destroys the muscle tissue. And so with her, and with any Pompe child, it usually happens quickly within the first couple of months of birth. And I should say, infantile. Yeah. There's different forms of it. But with Ella, we were lucky enough to catch that something was up quick. So between a 2-month to 6-month period, there's a lot of damage that can be done. So with Ella, she can function quite well. She runs, walks, can fight colds pretty well. All those things are on our side fighting this disease. But, for her, we have to keep up with, our week would be like PT, speech. I homeschool Ella partially. We were working our way into school, which is a big deal because you're around a lot of exposures and a lot of even risks where Ella falling or something is a lot more severe than it would be any other child. So, we had gotten our routine down and school was on board, and that's a huge issue trying to get all that in place. And that does not even begin to include all the appointments. I mean, we see cardiology, we see pulmonology, we see metabolics, we see pediatricians. And so it's just kind of a circus, going to all these different places. Now, and I will say the blessing of our retreat was realizing my story, and this is, I think, my own ego playing in, you go with the sob story of like, oh, my story is so hard. And then you meet people like Jamie or, some of these other people, Aaron, who they're struggling with so many, there's a lot more than mine is currently. So it's just interesting to see how it goes.
Hierarchy of pain, right?
Yeah,
Hierarchy of pain and suffering,
it's, yeah.
but gives you perspective and some empathy.
Yeah, it opens you up a little bit more, being like, okay, I don't have to be and I don't like this term, but victim of my own circumstance. You can play in that place really easily, and I do it. But when you see other people, you're like, oh, I have it good right now. I have it really good. So
yeah, you're being you're being so characteristically just loving and self-effacing, and what I would say is doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, every doctor's appointment is a trigger. You see it on the calendar. You're preparing and leading up to it. You know that there's going to be blood draws or an infusion or something that is traumatic, especially for a child, and you're sort of getting into this norm of trauma, which is that chronic that chronic traumatic stress response. And so what have been your kind of go-to coping mechanisms when you have to stare something down, something like an infusion or
I meditation helps, and I will say exercise has become more of a necessity. I had put that off for several years because I just didn't really have time particularly, but meditation helps. I think visualization does too, with helping your child see or kind of talk through what we could potentially go through. But then, can go both ways, because sometimes when it really doesn't go that way and it's more difficult, then expectations might be set. So that's a little hard. But and I think getting out in nature, sort of simple things, just we talked about this at the retreat, like going and having a bath, and preparing yourself that way or whatever, little things. And that was a huge takeaway for me, is that self-care doesn't have to be like big things. It doesn't have to be necessarily go out and run or do something. It can be simply like we talked about, the smell that brings you back to a good place, or a candle or a picture or something like that. And so that helps to take something that kind of gets you past the momentary struggle, if you can, because you're going to know, okay, we'll get through this. We'll, tomorrow's another day, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so here we are now. You talked about homeschooling. You talked about medical uncertainty. We're all living in this world of social isolation right now. So how has life changed for you over the last few weeks with this pandemic?
Well, it's been interesting. I have a funny story. So after we saw you guys, we went to Hawaii. If you remember that, it was in just end of December, January. And I was freaking out about it, but I had gotten to a much better headspace to go. And my freaking out has to do with flying or going to a location that isn't necessarily set up for your health needs. So there's some risk there. So we've only really taken 2 vacations on commercial airlines, which is interesting because my husband's a pilot. So we could fly anytime we wanted to on commercial, but it's a risk. So the first time we did fly, Ella got sick, got a cold, and threw us in a state. But this time, I get on the plane, and I was prepared this time. So I had my wipes. I take a twin sheet, like a bed sheet, and I put it on the seat, and I tuck it in around, because I know the fabrics on the airplanes they don't absorb, and it's really hard for them to sanitize those. So I'm sitting on the plane, and this guy comes by, and he's like, well, what do you think? Are you trying to go camping or something? And I'm like, oh, I wanted to tell him my whole story of like, buddy, it seems extreme. It does. But the reality is my situation is extreme. So flash forward to where we are today. And I would be so curious to talk to this man, because now we are living in a world where people are aware. And I think that has been one of the hardest things is, there's there was a social unawareness of other people, I think, in general, like other people of need. And especially when it comes down to medically fragile people, people have no concept of, even like a cough. I mean, we would sit in airplanes and it would just like, you cringe because you think, oh, I hear that cough, doctor's appointments. And so I go in and I would take on the role of cleaning everything, wiping it down, restaurants, wiping tables down, anywhere I could think of. But the backlash of that, people would look at you like offended, like you're offending them or something. And they don't really understand that, okay, we have to kind of take these in a on the responsibility, because, that's not a huge need for the mass majority. Now, it's interesting because like, Shane goes to when we have to go to the grocery store, has a mask, the gloves on, wiping things down isn't seen as, unusual. You don't get the comments, now it's normal. So that's been, I think, a positive, if there is something out of all this, is the social awareness. The fear, we live with the fear of like, can we get our medical supplies? Because we get monthly Ella's infusion meds come to our house. We had 2 weeks where I gave Ella's infusion. So we talked about this at Angel's Aid, taking on too much responsibility with the needs of your child. So I opted to hire a nurse to do her infusions. And I'm trained to do it, but she comes in, she's been a huge light in my life. But with this illness, I had to step up and do it twice because she had a cold. And so, I mean, there's these things that you kind of aren't prepared for totally. And so, like,
Annie, you're talking about infusions. You're talking about needle pokes with your child. This is unimaginable to an average parent, that they would be put in a position of needing to do
having to do their own
like that at home.
Yes. And I will tell you, my nurse is amazing. She's one of my good friends now. And she's actually came to the house, sat out in the driveway and walked our dogs. She's like, I'm not coming in. I just want you to know I will be there as a support. I'm like, oh
my God, I'm going to cry. That's so wonderful, right?
Yeah.
It's so wonderful.
Yeah. And we got through the infusion. We did, but she was concerned because she's like, she also works at the hospital and she's got this cold and we just don't know,
No, I can.
So,
wow. So it's just, it's these constant hurdles that you're faced with, but you seem like you're in such a good place, Annie. I mean, you really,
better
than a lightness and a levity to you that I'm so.
Well, when you met me, I was in a, and I think that's what you have to look at too, is that, the stress can hit you at just random times. I think I told you this, that I was in a meeting for Ella's school and I'm like sobbing, and which was odd for me because I have gone to some pretty difficult doctor's appointments, and the doctors are like, I can't believe that you sit through there and you're not crying. And I'm like, stoic, but then something random comes out of the woodwork and you're just like, it really hits you. So, I think you set the tone for me to come back healthier. Shane wanted to thank you because he felt like same thing. I kind of lightened up a little bit. And you remember one of the big things for me was, it was the first night Ella was not with me.
Yes.
She stayed with her dad for 2 days.
It was so brave. It was so brave of your whole family, right? I mean, Shane flew you down.
Yes, he did.
He didn't have to fly commercially. He delivered you, hand delivered you to the ranch for the retreat. We got to meet Ella. We got to meet Shane. We got to share a Disney.
You gave Ella.
It was Minnie Mouse.
still has not many. That was the lifesaver. Ella was not going to leave Mama here.
No.
And then I don't even remember what you said to her about, okay, you can take Minnie.
You take Minnie, hold on to her until it's time for you to come back and get your mom, and then we'll do an exchange. And then she came back, and it was clear the exchange was not going to happen, and that was just fine. We wanted her to have Minnie Mouse. So
Minnie Mouse is a special person in our world now too. Thank you. That was such a sweet. Yeah, that was a tough moment, let me tell you. But we got through it, and it's what we had to do. So
do you have any thoughts or messages for moms, for Amicus? I know is your partner.
Yeah. I want to. And then picture of you of John Crowley. I mean, he's kind of like beyond a mentor. The story that those that don't know about Pompe, the movie Extraordinary Measures really talks about that, their life and how they pursued the treatment. And I can't even begin to. It's huge what they've done. So for you to send that picture with Ella was for Ella was just beyond amazing. Yeah. We have that framed because that's just kind of one of those moments of like, people are out there supporting you. And I think what you're doing here online is, you're connecting people in ways that I don't know that it would naturally happen. Moms are tired and busy, and, we're in this world so much that we don't get to connect often enough. And now you open it up in a way that's healing and not just, talking about medical stuff. I mean, we can, and it is nice that you can start jabbering away about, like you said, needle pokes and, what do you do? And, stuff that nobody else would understand or even get what you go through with just that one process. I think in terms of what I would recommend for other moms, I think, give yourself grace because it's a tough road. I mean, and there's just no way around that, but self-compassion, where you just take time for yourself. And we talked about that, and going back to the need of self-care, I can tell you, I remember a social worker sitting down with me when we were first diagnosed with Ella, and she was like saying, you really need to take care of yourself. Mama's first. If you're not healthy, baby's not healthy. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we are that first year living in a hospital, not leaving a hospital room, literally. I mean, what does that look like, And so it just kind of seemed kind of inappropriate, or so. I'm like, yeah, but we have no keys to do that. We don't have a network of people I can get online or like have a retreat I can go to for just 48 hours or whatever, 72 hours to get back on my feet. It didn't exist. So having something like this is huge for those of us that are going through it. And I don't know. I don't know if there's much more I can say. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I wish I could reach through this Zoom and hug you. I wish I could just send you all my love and energy. I hope you
just
feel
see
it.
You. I know. I feel. And I mean, to those moms out there, Crystal is amazing. I'm just gonna say this because you sent over Valentine's. She sent us, me, this Valentine's gift that was like a candle and candy and just a affirming perk and support. And so, it's those types of things that you're like, you are seen, you're known, and you're loved. And that is huge. It's what gets us through all of this.
Yes. Well, Annie, you are seen, known, and loved.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful.
And I am just thank you for reaching out today and getting the chance to talk with you. It's been too long, and
it has been.
When's the next retreat, or what's the story there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, we had our April retreat scheduled and our moms all
Oh,
signed up, and we had to obviously, cancel that
oh,
and shift everyone to November. What came out of that was a clear need to get our services online. So
yeah,
just like every other major corporation is doing big pivots right now.
yeah,
I woke up and I was just, it was always our plan to do that, but it was just accelerated. Now more
yeah.
than ever, we have to do this quickly. And so your home state of Washington houses one of the biggest technology
Oh,
companies
yes.
in the world, Microsoft. And I don't know, it's been a course of miracles working with Angel Aid and our mission. And right when all of this hit, we had this amazing champion within Microsoft,
Oh,
and she said, we have a Jumpstart hackathon coming up in March. I
oh,
wonder if we couldn't get a team together to help you get this online. And I said,
oh my
yes,
God.
we can do it. And so we did. I have the goosebumps right now. I am
Oh,
so grateful. We had 15 95% women,
oh,
uh, designers, developers, strategists, PR and communications experts, social media experts, UI, UX, backend developers, all gathered together for 24 hours. And we took Sustainable Mom, the same training that you experienced at the retreat, and we ported it
oh
into
my
an
goodness.
online community. So if you go to angelaidcares.org, you'll see a brand new website. You
Oh,
may see your picture or two there
that
because
is so, it is
we
so
used our
beautiful.
imagery.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh,
Good,
yeah.
that's good.
It's
So
amazing.
that training is now
Wow.
available online
Oh
for
my gosh. I
moms.
did not, I need to go check it out because
Good,
that
please
is
do,
so amazing. I mean,
please do.
that will be a huge resource for moms. I mean, huge.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
I,
And it does, I mean, it's beyond a village. It takes, I'm just humbled is not even the term. It's like the people that come together for these kinds of things. It is truly a miracle. I feel like these people are selfless and they're humble, and it's like they're giving these resources, and then and yet I feel like there is such a need. They're really feeling that need. It is,
absolutely.
people are absorbing it. We are taking that in, and
Yeah.
it's and not even us. Oh, my dog's over here trying
Oh,
to
once your
yeah,
coworker
yeah,
wants your attention.
she's
Yeah.
wanting my attention.
I
But
understand.
once we connect with these people, I mean, it's just opened up a world that is changing rare disease. I mean, it really is. And that's from the deepest part of my heart. That's what we desire. And, and for Ella, I want her to be able to look back and see, Mom, look at all these things that people were doing for me and my cause. It's like, that's powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that full circle, because I agree with our volunteers and our donors and our supporters. They make the retreats,
Yeah.
a reality. They make this online portal. Now that we've built it, we have to staff it, and
Oh, yeah.
we built it in English, Spanish, and Hindi
What?
because rare moms are all over the world,
Yeah.
and we need to be able to reach them in language. So
Oh,
um, there's more than enough opportunity to support the work that we do, but all of it is in service to you and
oh,
your sisters from the retreat
yeah.
and your sisterhood around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to know that we're all in this together, and it's, I have some really close friends that came out of that retreat, and it's been, like you said, it was a short, powerful moment in our experience, but you know, in the whole tapestry of our life, it really keeps us all together, and I don't know, I just can't say enough about it. And